This is the weekend edition of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, our weekend show is all about the two of us each nominating what we think is the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable story, the sleeper story, and our favourite story. There's a few to choose from this week. You would think that with a public holiday in the middle of it, the news cycle would be a little bit slower, but I felt like we were spoilt for choice.
We were spoilt for choice. I'm looking forward to see what you've come up with and what our eminent judge, Adam Lang, thinks of both.
Oh, good morning, Adam.
Good morning.
Do you feel we were spoiled for choice?
Yes, I do. So it remains to be seen if you've taken that great material and turned it into gold.
That's actually my... Do you go into this every week going, this is what I expect should be the biggest story of the week. This is what I expect should be the most remarkable story. And you're just waiting to see if we kind of come up with those? Or are you just kind of blank slate every time?
I try and be very zen-like, clear the mind.
Well, maybe, but I think you've evolved as a judge, Adam.
Really?
Because what we really learned last week, I think, when Michael won the show, was that...
Oh, did I? Sorry, I'd forgotten that.
No, of course. That as you've evolved, you like to give your own 2 cents worth, really. So you know, that sort of that objectivity thing, it's sort of, dissipating. I wouldn't say gone, Adam.
Not yet.
Dissipating.
Shall we jump into it?
Sure.
Okay, so we're looking for the biggest story first. Sean, as it's really kind of become traditional now for you to start. Would you like to go first?
Sure. There really probably was only one big story this week for a business podcast, I'm afraid to say. On Wednesday, figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics show that annual inflation hit a near 33-year high of 7.8% in the December quarter. Now, pretty much everyone thinks interest rates will now rise when the Reserve Bank Board meets on February 6. That will take rate rises since the beginning of May last year to 3.25 percentage points, 3.25% extra on whatever you're paying. The headline quarterly rise of 1.9% was driven by big jumps in domestic and international travel and electricity bill. The underlying rate for the year came in at 6.9%. Now, the underlying rate takes out the top 15% of products and the bottom 15%. So you kind of get this trimmed median rate, they call it. For 3 months, that came in at 1.7%. That's the highest quarterly level since the series began back in 2003. Inflation is way, way too high. Hence, rates will rise again. Now, big implications here. Obviously, home loans. We talk about that all the time. Standard variable loans will kind of get closer to 7 point something than the current 6 point something. They were about 3 point something 12 months ago. That is a massive jump. That's literally thousands of dollars for many people that they've got to pay extra each month. But it's beyond that. Social welfare payments rise because they're indexed to inflation. Pensions, unemployment benefits, basic family payments, excise duties. So the tax from cigarettes and beer, petrol, all that is linked to inflation. So as inflation rises, so too do those excise duties. University loans, annuities, toll roads, many, many commercial property deals, even some rental deals. It'll take a while for it to filter through, but it will. So in terms of economic impact, very hard to beat this week, the inflation figures. Michael.
Yes, it is a big story. Inflation is a big story.
I'm looking forward to your counter offer.
But if you went up to any ordinary Joe or any everyday Enid in the street and said, what is the standout event from this week? They're not going to say CPI. They're going to say something else. They're going to say
Australian Open?
Close. Australia Day. And that is largely because it is becoming, it has become the most divisive date on the calendar. There were protests obviously around the country. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese conceding that January 26th, the anniversary of the First Fleet's arrival, is difficult for some people, for a lot of people. But at the same time, he said there's no discussion, no plan to change the date. Instead, he tried to put the focus back on the Indigenous Voice to Parliament referendum coming up later this year, saying that is the way to advance national reconciliation. Interestingly, and this is why it is, I feel, the biggest story for a business podcast as well, that this is one of those cases where you see business and politics colliding in quite a big way. We've got many big companies, including Telstra, led by CEO Vicky Brady, giving staff the option of working on the public holiday and taking another day off instead if they are uncomfortable with recognising Australia Day. Andy Penn, former Telstra boss, was on the Australia Day honours list, yet he was there saying it's time for a debate over this holiday. Clearly, this is one debate that's not going away anytime soon, and it has made Australia Day a big, big story that entwines politics and business and every single person in this country. Adam.
Commendable job, Michael. Very good story. But Sean wins on this one.
Don't you love it? The first word that Adam says and you know the result, commendable, and you think, you're gone, biscuits. Mate, you're gone.
Yeah, I'm out. Yeah.
Look, I do. I think it's a great story, Australia Day. It's really interesting. Public holidays becoming more optional, based on personal choice. So it has great implications for business, and it's obviously incredibly topical. But this inflation story, highest in 33 years, and interest rates expected, everyone going, oh, maybe they'll hold, right to, no, they're going to lift, and that will have impact on most people in a business sense. So Sean wins this one.
That's fair. That is completely legitimate. So, all right, 1-0. Let's head into most remarkable story. I'll go first on this one, Sean, if that's
okay.
all right.
Okay.
Because, Adam, I know that you love a good turnaround story, and even better when it involves an iconic brand like Myer. Because the department store group has posted its strongest sales this week in almost 20 years. First half net profit is up almost 90% on the previous period and higher than pre-pandemic too, which I think is significant. What I really like about this is, though, there are these really good, very kind of human stories within the numbers. You see you've got events and functions are being held again after a few years of nothing or just everything happening via Zoom. So obviously people need to get dressed up again, and chances are what fit them pre-pandemic may not fit them anymore. So as a result, you get categories like women's wear and footwear and fashion accessories. The sales in those categories have been really strong, and same with the beauty products as well. Punters are shopping in person, actually venturing into stores rather than just buying online. So this is my nightmare, having to leave the house. Online sales are actually down. You look at online retailer Kogan.com, big beneficiary of lockdowns and the e-commerce boom. Sales for the December half, we found out this week, were down 32.5%. Still, Myer has a considerable way to go before it gets back to its former glory. It listed on the ASX back in 2009 at $4.10. It's never traded above that. In fact, even with all of its recent success, the share price is still below $1. But there is actually a lot of confidence there. Even as the cost of living starts to hit spending, they seem to think that the good times might just continue for Myer, and I think that's a fantastic story.
What's the remarkable part of it?
The fact that Myer, which everyone had written off a couple of years ago, is making a comeback. I'm sorry, Sean, that you're so un-Australian that you don't appreciate a good comeback story. Sorry, I didn't mean to get quite so personal there, but...
Well, I'm going to go to the other side of the world for my most remarkable story, and maybe I shouldn't really be surprised, but the bravado of Elon Musk this week. He's a newsman's friend. I mean, not since Donald Trump have we had someone that we can talk about so consistently with so much, I'm not quite sure what the phrase is really. He's just providing us with lots of stuff to go with. This week, Exhibit 1, the court case that's going on in which investors are alleging they lost money on Tesla shares because Musk tweeted he was going to take the company private and had funding. Now, he was in the stand this week. Whether or not he's guilty, what CEO tweets that he's going to take a publicly listed company private and they've got funding? It just doesn't happen. Well, it did in this instance. Exhibit number 2, Twitter, owned by Musk, decided not to pay the rent on their London headquarters, which is owned by Crown Estates. Crown Estates, yep, that's the property portfolio of King Charles III. So we had Elon Musk versus King Charles III this week because Twitter hasn't paid the rent. Exhibit number 3, Tesla's share price jumped after the company announced it would produce 1.8 million cars this year. It announced a $3.7 billion US profit for the December quarter, a record. Pretty good. That's remarkable. Even more remarkable is what Musk said during the earnings call. He said buying Twitter is good for Tesla because it will drive demand. And his follower count of 127 million speaks for itself. And I gave the quote during the week, I'll give it again. The net value of Twitter to Tesla is gigantic. Obviously. It's not obvious. Adam, do you have any idea why the net value of Twitter to Tesla is gigantic?
No, like you, Sean, it's not quite clear to me either.
Yeah, remarkable. This man continues to astound.
Adam, before you give your judgment, I don't want to colour or try and sway you at all, but I mean,
however,
Sean, you did mention that Elon Musk is really the newsman's friend and that he always delivers headlines. And I just think that if this person is delivering headlines so consistently, then perhaps that diminishes the remarkableness of those headlines when...
I feel like I'm in a school debate here. Yeah, the first speaker, second speaker.
Yes, may I?
Please.
So on this one, I think Musk trumps Meyer. So, Sean,
I like the phrase, Musk trumps Meyer.
Thank you. Sean, you win on this one. Meyer's turnaround story is fantastic. And it's even, I think, demonstrable in the fact that Solly Lou's a little quieter these days about Meyer. But in terms of Tesla and Elon, it's like he had a few weeks off and then, God, he's come back with gusto this week.
The other thing I was going to say about Meyer, but I didn't want to rebut like Michael attempted to, a turnaround, $4.10 to 90 cents. That's a funny turnaround for a share price.
I think Michael was talking about the profit turnaround.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so I'm going to rise above all of this petty sledging and not get involved. I'm just going to say, well done, Sean. It is 2-0, and we'll be back in a moment with the sleeper story of the week.
And a little more petty sledging.
All right, Sean, we're looking for the sleeper story of the week, so one that's maybe not getting the attention that it deserves or that you personally feel could become a bigger story further down the track. What was it?
Or Adam feels.
Yeah, really, it's not about what we think, is it? It is all about like if you were to put in a story about kind of that you think is going to be really relevant to cavoodles in 6 months, you know that Adam has a cavoodle named Maggie and go, bam, I've won this category.
Cavoodles, tax time, things like that.
Oh, yeah, dream result. Yes.
Yeah. Look, the sleeper story for me isn't about the future. It's about what happened this week, but we're not really making a big deal of it. It's the local share market as demonstrated by BHP's share price hitting $50 for the first time ever this week. Since the 3rd of January, the S&P ASX 200 is up more than 7%. Now, you take that for a full year. It's better than many other global markets. Wall Street, for example, is up about half that level. And the ASX 200 is now only a couple of percent off its all-time high from last year. Two main reasons. Inflation globally looks like coming off the boil, notwithstanding this week's hiccup locally. And China dropped its zero COVID tolerance policy. BHP and other iron ore miners benefit because they provide the raw material that goes into steel, which China will need more of as it opens up. So far this year, we haven't spoken much about markets and particularly the local share market, but it has steadily been creeping higher as demonstrated by BHP's record high this year. That helps when we found out this week that most balanced superannuation funds went backwards last year. In fact, the average was 4.8%, minus 4.8%. Good news on the share market. Not a lot of chat about this, but equities are on the up. Definitely the sleeper story of the week. Michael.
25th of January was 3 years since the outbreak of COVID in Australia. So the first case was diagnosed here on the 25th of January 2020. Since then, of course, we've been through lockdowns, very long lockdowns, particularly in the case of Melbourne, the biggest, fastest vaccination rollout we've ever seen. More than 18,000 Australians have died directly as a result of COVID, most of those last year. And COVID hasn't gone away. There are new strains, there are new vaccines being developed. There is an ongoing risk, particularly to vulnerable people like the elderly or anyone with kind of compromised immune systems. But at the same time, the impact on our daily lives and the impact on business has been reduced. We're learning to live with it. The effect on supply chains and staff availability, the general movement of people around the country has pretty much kind of passed us by. So the very fact that I'm able to nominate something like the 3rd anniversary of COVID arriving in Australia as a sleeper really says something, don't you think, about the way that we have adjusted in this country. Adam?
No.
Did you say no just then?
Yes.
I do believe I heard the word no.
Really?
I think we really did pass that position about 6 months ago.
Keep talking, Adam. Keep talking.
The third anniversary, we passed the 3rd anniversary 6 months ago.
Well, the 3rd anniversary isn't quite a sleeper story in that any anniversary is predictable. So we knew it was coming. But I do think your point.
Loving today.
A sleeper story doesn't have to be unpredictable. It just has to be something that we didn't pay much attention to. I disagree with the premise of your reasoning. Anyway, I have a feeling I'm losing this one, so I've got nothing left to lose.
Anywho, the local share market is a good story, but I think the bit that got it for me, Sean, was like, because we follow the share market each trading day. But to your point around linking it with the recovery in the share market to be just short of its record highs now, and super funds going backwards 4.8% last year, that is indeed a sleeper story for what is going to carry forward with super fund returns coming, and hopefully that will continue. So I think you just win this one.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant to say. That's right, Adam. I'm with you. Michael, you there?
Yes. Sorry, I picked myself up off the floor. 3-0, heading into the favourite story of the week.
Go for it, Michael.
I will.
For it.
Okay. Look, my favourite story. Sean, you mentioned Elon Musk earlier. My favourite story is about another billionaire, one a little bit closer to home, purely because of the literal proximity, because he's been in Australia this week. Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, spoke at a Lowy Institute function, and the benefit of being, a tech legend with a $100+ billion fortune is that when you speak, people tend to listen. I love the fact that he covered so many topics, from why it's crucial to include China in international trade, through to a warning over the science behind nuclear energy. He's backing an Aussie startup called Ruminate. I love anything with a numeral in its name as well, to develop seaweed feed for cattle to stop them essentially putting emissions into the atmosphere.
Please explain.
Well, explain how those emissions enter the atmosphere.
I think we get it.
Okay, good. I was about to get very graphic, and I'm glad I didn't.
I know.
It is a broad range of opinions, though, don't you think? Kind of from all the way from China trade to farting cows. And I like the fact that when
I hate that word.
Cows, trade, China.
The one before the F word, I can't. I just hate it. I can't say it.
You don't need to. I did.
Exactly right. It's just one of my least favourite words ever.
I'm with you as well. It sounds very, very crude, doesn't it?
It's kind of like moist is another one of those words. Oof, there's nothing good about the word moist.
This is a slippery slope we're on right now, Sean.
Let's keep going.
Okay. I like the fact, though, that Bill Gates, on a very serious note, that he's actually trying to make a difference. And he does that obviously through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They've donated billions of dollars to fight poverty, to fight disease, etc., right around the world. And the fact that he's also willing to speak his mind on some pretty controversial topics. And how about this for an offer? If he ever wants to do it through a Fear and Greed daily interview, we are happy to consider it, and we'll see whether we can squeeze him in.
I mean, we need to take that to committee. I mean, if Bill Gates wants to talk to us, we'll have, the three of us will have to get together and decide whether we're going to let him on.
Yeah, see what we can do. Maybe. Not giving him a blanket kind of invitation, but maybe. Sean, what's your favourite story?
Nowhere near as serious as yours, I've got to tell you. My favourite story is the fact that skinny jeans will never die. Now, the boss of Levi Strauss, Chip Berg, love the name, said that women's skinny jeans, particularly the 311 and 721 designs, will never die. They are actually the top-selling jeans from Levi Strauss. But I like to quote Mr. Berg at this point. Half of our revenues on bottoms this past quarter came from the looser, baggier fits. Half of our revenue on bottoms. Revenue on bottoms, it's an interesting phrase to use, isn't it? Only probably in Levi Strauss and just a handful of other companies around the world would you say it. Anyway, apparently Gen Zers are buying baggier jeans. Also, thankfully, the trend is towards lower rise jeans rather than high rise. Now, I'm a baggy jeans man. You get to a certain age and you just realise that you should never, ever be seen in a pair of tight jeans. So all for the baggy jeans. Also not a big fan of the high rise. You know, I mean, I like the lower rise so long as there's no underpant involved. I think that's okay.
Oh, hang on, stop. You can't drop a bomb like that and just say that you only wear jeans without underpants. That's just an image that we don't know. I don't think anybody wants that. I think that's ground for disqualification.
I think we'll have to go back to the tape. I didn't say that.
You said lower rise as long as there are no underpants involved.
Ah, yes, you're right. Good point. I was thinking about the visuals myself.
Commando Sean Aylmer.
Oh, Adam, please adjudicate. Yes. Get us out of here.
Otherwise, Commando will be your new nickname, Sean.
Excellent.
It trumps self-serve checkout. All right, Michael, you win this one. Skinny jeans will never die is good, and Levi's Chip Berg's commentary. But Bill Gates, I think, is a ripper, and that was my favourite story of the week too.
Your favourite story of the week?
Yeah.
There you go. Michael, you got lucky. You picked the same one as Adam.
Now, yes, it's 3-1 overall, but there is a chance that if the margin was enough on that last story.
No. As we decided at the end of last year, once there's a winner, we don't go to points. Now, I'm going to actually just let listeners in here. The very last show last year, it was a 2-2 draw, and Michael immediately wanted to go to points. And I said, no, let's just finish the year even Stevens. Off air, for the record, I got 90 points. Michael got 88. However, not that I'm holding on to that.
No, just that detail came very naturally to you, Sean.
It just came to me. I had to say it.
You got a pin to the wall. Look, I never agreed to let anything go. Okay. I'm not someone who lets anything go very easily. So, Adam, please.
It is, after all, a competition. 3-1 on the story count, Sean. And if relevant, the local unit, Michael Thompson, score 88 points. Mm-hmm. Sean, self-serve, checkout. Aylmer, 90 points.
There we go.
That's close.
Good competition.
Yes.
3-1 on the stories, but very close on the points. Yeah.
And again, not that I'm competitive, but it was 90 to 88 to Michael last week. So as far as I can tell, that's like what, 178. 178. Ooh, it's going to be big numbers by the end of the year.
I'm impressed that you were able to calculate that in your head so quickly. I was there going, oh, what's this add up to?
Top the state in maths.
Goes to show what a mess the New South Wales education system is when Michael Thompson can top the state in maths.
All right. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
And make sure you're following the podcast. Join us online on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Twitter, Facebook. We're pretty much everywhere. And also have a listen to the new episode of How Do They Afford That, which is our sister podcast this week. It is all about emergency money, how much you need to have stashed away in case everything goes a little bit pear-shaped. I'm Michael Thompson. Have a great weekend.